Okay, so this video might get a little long because I have 3 articles about Gina Carano suing Disney. And if anybody has been following why she was fired, well, Elon Musk is going to pay for it, because of course he is. But anyway, let's just get to the first article from Deadline. When it comes to fired The Mandalorian actress Gina Carano and Elon Musk, revenge against the Walt Disney Company is served piping hot, even if it takes a bit of time and tries to snare Pedro Pascal and Mark Hamill. Oh, the irony of trying to get those two, especially Pedro Pascal. And again, if you know the history of Gina Carano's tweets, you'll know exactly why I think it's especially ironic that she's having a problem with Pedro Pascal's tweets. Anyway, 3 years after ex-MMA fighter Carano was axed by the then Bob Chapek-run Disney for comparing the political climate in America to Nazi Germany, well, not exactly. Carano on Tuesday sued Disney and Star Wars shingle Lucasfilm for dropping her from the Bounty Hunter series, and the ex-Tesla owner is paying for her lawyers. A short time ago, in a galaxy not so far away, defendants made it clear that the only one orthodoxy in thought, speech, or action was acceptable in their empire. They're not the fucking government. And those who dared to question or failed to fully comply would not be tolerated. Again, that is not what happened. Read the complaint seeking a jury trial filed this morning in federal court, says. And so it was with Carano. The rule of law still reigns over the defendant's empire. I just love how she's trying to make herself to be the rebellion and trying to make Disney the empire and make this all Star Warsy when it's obvious she kind of didn't get the point of Star Wars. Now, granted, many times the rebellion screwed up and were just as bad as the Empire. But to make it like it's somehow something it's not. Anyway, the rule of law still reigns over the defendant's empire, and Carano has returned to demand they be held accountable for their bullying, discriminatory, and retaliatory actions. Actions that inflicted not only substantial emotional harm, but millions of dollars in lost income, adds the suit, which alleges wrongful discharge and sex discrimination. No, sweetheart. You comparing your conservative views with how Jews were treated in Nazi Germany. No, that has nothing. If a man did that, they would be treated just the same as you. No. But it's obvious she doesn't understand the reason why her invoking Nazi Germany was a bad thing. And we'll get to that later in this article. On February 21st, 2021, not long after the second season of The Mandalorian, co-starring Carano, had concluded on Disney+, Lucasfilm put out a scathing statement on its business with the actress. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. With the suit, Carano and her lawyers are hoping to call out Disney and Lucasfilm for reneging on a deal and sacrificing free speech. Again, Disney is not the government, so free speech does not apply here. Now, you can have the argument that what you post on social media should not affect your employment, but that's still not a free speech issue. And what else did I want to mention about that? Oh, yes, and neither Mark Hamill nor Pedro Pascal denigrated an entire group of people just because they exist. Which is what you're doing, sweetheart. In addition to terminating her, defendants refused to hire her for roles already promised. Yes, that's what being fired means. Including, but not limited to, Season 3 of The Mandalorian, the new series Rangers of the New Republic, and planned future Star Wars full-length feature films, which have recently been announced, all because of her political beliefs and in disparate treatment from her male co-workers, the complaint asserts. No. No. It's not because you're conservative. It's because you're a piece of trash. There's a difference. All right. The openly conservative Carano is also seeking to paint the now Bob Iger-run Disney as having a sexist double standard. Again, no. The defendants also discriminated against Carano by treating her differently from her male co-stars who also made public political statements on social media. Because this is proof that she doesn't understand why what she said was bad. Because she thinks that it was because it was a political statement. No, it's not because it was a political statement. It's not because she's conservative. It's because she said something horrible. Her male co-stars were not disciplined, let alone terminated in a way to destroy their careers, even though some would find their statements abhorrent. Well, let's see. Mark Hamill's at the point in his career that it can't be destroyed. Actually, same thing with Pedro Pascal. He's just totally blown up. So, yeah. But more so with Mark Hamill, who's at the twilight of his career. So, yeah. Anyway, to that point, the suit spotlights posts and statements by Mandalorian lead Pedro Pascal and Luke Skywalker himself and Mandalorian Season 2 finale guest Mark Hamill regarding Donald Trump and the former president's policies being like those of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. Okay, number one, they are operating by facts. Donald Trump likes to quote Hitler, and his policies do resemble Nazi Germany. So that's based on fact, not because your little feelings were hurt. And number two, they are talking about one person. They are not attacking a broad group of people. Now, granted, the people who like his policies, you could say, are the same, but that's not who they're attacking here. You, on the other hand, attacked everybody. Everybody you don't like. So, yeah, there is that. All right. Where did I go? In language similar to the references to Pascal, Carano's suit said defendants did not comment on, let alone publicly condemn Hamill's social media comments. Because again, his comments were based in fact. Yours are because your little feelings were hurt. Those are the differences. And just because you don't like the fact that Donald Trump has been called out for quoting Hitler, that's not my problem. That's not Mark's problem. That's not Pedro's problem. That is a you problem. If you don't like when people point out that your savior quotes Hitler and loves dictators, well, then maybe you should look at, why you have such a visceral reaction to it when people mention the truth. And if you don't like when the truth is mentioned, again, that's a you problem. You should probably consider, oh, I don't know, not supporting the guy who quotes Hitler. Seeking a slew of damages and a court order to get back her Mandalorian role of Rebel Ranger Cara Dune. Okay, at this point, why would you want to work for a company that kicked you out? I never understood this. I understand you wanting to sue for wrongful dismissal, which you weren't wrongfully dismissed, but I get it. But you want your role back? Considering some of the things you said, I would say that part of the reason you were kicked out is to protect Pedro. You know, he's the one with the sister who's trans. And so why would you want to work in that environment? I just don't get it. Carano took to social media today to amplify her long-delayed legal move, claiming her words were consistently twisted to demonize and dehumanize me as an alt-right-wing extremist. Then don't say stupid shit that can be construed that way. Just a thought. The ex-UTA represented actress, the agency dropped her not long after Disney Lucasfilm did in February 2021, also revealed that Musk is, I assume that's supposed to be paying for her. It's role-playing, but I assume paying. Which, I'm sorry, at this point, if Elon Musk is paying for it, that's almost like the being represented by the American law and justice. You just know that this is just a conservative who just wants to see if they can't throw something at the wall and see what will stick. Disney has not replied to Deadline's request for comment on Carano's Musk-backed suit. If and when the Mouse House does, this post will be updated. Musk's team was quick to confirm its financial support of Carano and stick the shiv in Disney's side. Oh God, I hate that I have to read this. As a sign of X Corp's commitment to free speech, again, it has nothing to do with free speech, but Elon Musk never did figure out what free speech meant. And I hate having to call it X Corp. He's not fucking Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is infinitely smarter than this doofus. We're proud to provide financial support for Gina Carano's lawsuit, empowering her to seek vindication of her free speech rights on X and the ability to work without bullying, harassment, or discrimination. Again, not a free speech issue because the government is not preventing her from working or saying whatever the hell she wants to say. So again, not a free speech issue. Disney is a private company, and if they think that the optics are bad because you are being a horrible excuse of a human being, they have every right to fire you. As much as it sucks, they have that right. Okay. Read a statement released today by the Musk-owned social media platform's head of business operations, Joe Benaroch. Okay. Of course, coming off a big defeat in federal court in Florida last week in its now appealed free speech lawsuit against Governor Ron DeSantis, Disney may not recognize the irony at play here. It may also wonder if Musk's deep pockets for Carano has something to do with Disney joining other corporations to pause its advertising on X in November after the Tesla kingpin retweeted a distinctly anti-Semitic post. With Iger sitting nearby, Musk lashed out at Disney and others for the ad boycott at a November 29, 2023 high-profile media conference. Somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising? No, that is literally not what's happening. People get to choose who they advertise with. Musk responded after being a question from moderator. Oh my God, do people not proofread before hitting send? Musk responded after being asked a question from moderator Andrew Ross Sorkin on the situation. Blackmail me with money? Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey Bob, if you're here in the audience, Musk made a point of adding to Iger, who is there. Sorry, that's how I feel. That's nice. I'm sure that made Bob Iger feel super sad. Taking a swing at Chapek's failed leadership as Disney's CEO, well, yeah, that he was, an accusation of the actress being opposed to trans rights and pronouns. Yeah. The Black Lives Matter movement, COVID protocols, and more, Carano's shared Jaffe attorneys have framed their client's controversy and eventual pink slipping as a consequence of a refusal to be bullied. Now, about the pronouns thing, I did hear that on Twitter, a bunch of fans kept insisting that she put her pronouns in her profile to show, of course they didn't explain it was to show solidarity with trans rights. They just kept bugging her to do it, and she didn't understand why. So she put beep bop boop. And it took Pedro Pascal to explain it to her that you're basically shitting on trans people by doing that. Now, could the Twitter community have, explained shit to her? Absolutely. So that one thing, but I don't know if she said anything more than that. I know that she's made other anti-trans posts. Let's see. And no, it's not about your refusal to be bullied. It's the fact that you bully others. It's not that you, don't like certain people. It's that you made it obvious that you're a bigot. And that your bigotry goes very far. And again, you have a co-star who has a sister who's freaking trans. I mean, the fact that he is pro-LGBTQ plus rights, not the problem. The fact that his sister would probably feel super uncomfortable going anywhere near you might have something to do with the firing. That and just saying horrible freaking things. Like, conservatives are like the Jews of Nazi Germany. I'm sorry, that is not people twisting your words and dehumanizing you. You're doing it yourself very well, thank you. Carano claims that even before the Mandalorian firing, she was under constant pressure from Disney to continue with her re-education program and make a public apology, which never happened, and sit with 2 GLAAD representatives among other missives. Oh no! They were actually trying to make Gina into a decent human being. How horrible! Meeting with people that you hate for absolutely no fucking reason? Mind blown. Granted, you're right. It shouldn't have come to that. Once they knew what kind of a piece of crap you were, they should have just fired you on the spot instead of trying to help you understand that these people are not the demons you're making them out to be. So instead, you got your ass handed to you. I mean, how is this Disney's problem? They actually tried to help you. They tried to get you to see reason. They didn't have to do that. Carano further alleges that in late 2020, Disney Lucasfilm communicated to Carano's publicist that they were going to require Carano to participate in a Zoom call with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy and 45 employees who identified as part of the LGBTQ plus community, going so far as to say that her willingness to endure such harassment and humiliation was a litmus test for her. I'm sorry, what is harassing and humiliating by saying that you're treating this community with, you're being horrible to a community of people? Why don't you meet with some of them and see that they're not the horrible people you're trying to make them out to be? How is that harassment? How is that humiliation? I mean, imagine that. Once upon a time. Actually, this still happens with racists. They meet with the race that they hate for absolutely no good reason, and then they stop being racist. For most part. I'm sure some still continue, but for the most part, they stop being racist once they understand the community that they've been denigrating is not what they thought they were. So, how is that harassment? How is that humiliating? Asking you to meet with the people you claim to hate so you can see that they're not worth your hate. No? That virtual meeting never occurred, though Carano's filing says she did offer to take some of those employees out to dinner, an offer that was rebuffed. She's an ex-MMA fighter. I'm sure that most of those employees would be scared to death of being anywhere close to her where she could, hurt them. Since, you're the one who's saying horrible things about them, why would they want to get within choking distance of you? I mean, come on. It's really not that hard to figure out that people want to talk to you from a safe distance where, you can't kill them. Alright, while Carano objects to being portrayed as an extremist, then stop acting like one, it should be noted that one of her first moves after being fired by Disney in 2021 was to jump into Terror on the Prairie. Carano is producing the feature with Ben Shapiro and film director Jeremy Boring's conservative media company, The Daily Wire. And that's where she should stay. In November 2021, Carano went online to announce she has joined the first family biopic, My Son Hunter, from director Robert Davi. Distributed by Breitbart News, and the Biden family flick will co-star Lawrence Fox, was released in September 2022. I think I saw a show with him in it. I liked him. Now to find out that he's a conservative dipwad. That's disappointing. Alright. Last week, Carano took to Instagram soon after the death of Carl Weathers was made public, revealing the Rocky legend and her Mandalorian co-star / director called her up after Disney fired her to tell her he didn't want me to give up. He was letting me know that he wasn't throwing me away. He was trying to keep my hope alive in what seemed like quite a hopeless scenario. He showed me he cared. That is who he was. And it's great that he did that. It's great that he thinks that there is hope for her. And maybe if she wasn't fired, maybe she wouldn't have gone full asshole. But chances are, no, she would have gotten there regardless. Now, that doesn't say either way whether Carl Weathers is a good guy, bad guy, what his politics are. It doesn't matter. He sees the best in people. Unfortunately, he can afford that because Gina wasn't sending her ammunition at him. So it's easy to do that. Pedro claims that he was friends with Gina during the show, but I don't know. Maybe that was just him saying that so he wouldn't become part of her drama, part of her controversy, especially since, again, he has a sister who's trans. But I don't know. If I became friends with someone, if I was working with someone who was saying these horrible things, and I had, especially if I had a family member or a friend who fit that group that she was attacking, would I want to be friends with that person? No, I wouldn't. I mean, I would try to correct them. But if it became obvious, which I'm sure it did, become very obvious very quickly that, you're not actually getting through, just cut this person off. Try not to talk to them. And in Pedro's case, that was easy because he didn't have to be on set that often. His was mostly a speaking role, so he could get away with it. But yeah. Okay, let's go to the next article from Variety, and we'll see how much of it is a rehash. Actor Gina Carano sued Disney and Lucasfilm on Tuesday for firing her from The Mandalorian in 2021 over a social media post in which he compared being a Republican to being Jewish during the Holocaust. Because that's not, what's the phrase? That's not, making her out to be a victim, now is it? I'm sorry. I don't see gas chambers out ready to claim Republicans. No gas chambers, no anything. No firing squads, no internment camps, no death camps. So, how is this like the Holocaust exactly? Do you know what happened during the Holocaust? Well, at least she's not a Holocaust denier, so I guess we have that going for us. The suit filed in California federal court alleges wrongful termination and discrimination, as well as demand that the court should force Lucasfilm to recast her, which again shouldn't be a thing. She shouldn't even want that to be a thing. And pay at least $75,000 in punitive damages. Translation, she's not making the money at Daily Wire that she was making for Lucasfilm. Elon Musk is funding the suit following his promise to pay for legal actions taken by people claiming discrimination from posts to Twitter/X. However, the post in question originated on Carano's Instagram stories, which I find hilarious, but whatever. As a sign of X-Corp's commitment to free speech, which, again, not at play here, we're proud to provide financial support for Gina Carano's lawsuit, empowering her to seek vindication of her free speech rights on X, which again was happening on Instagram, not X, and the ability to work without bullying, harassment, or discrimination, says Joe Benark. Why do I do that? Head of business operations at X, in a statement. Carano played Cara Dune, a rebel soldier turned mercenary for the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, which streams on Disney+. But she came under immediate criticism when she shared a post from a different Instagram account in February 2021. Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because anti-Semitism was ripe. It wasn't just the Nazi Party. That's okay. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, The government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. Yeah, I will agree that that is a thing. That's how this started. How is it that any different from hating someone for their political views, the Post read? Because Jew is an ethnicity. You can change your political views. Number one. Number two, Republicans, at least the old style Republicans, from even those who were horrible, at least they were sane. They didn't actively attack an entire group of people. I mean, it's, yeah, if your political view, look, if your political view is to hate a group of people, then when that hate comes back to you, you shouldn't be surprised. It amazes me how many people get all bent out of shape when they feel like they can hate whomever the hell they want, whatever group they want. And I'm talking groups, not single people. I'm talking groups of people. Hate trans people, hate gay people, hate black people. I don't care. And then if that hate suddenly turns on them, they get upset. Like, this is how the Holocaust started. Yeah, and who is the one who's breeding hate for all these other groups, these other minorities? Because guess what? Most of these people are white who are doing this. I just don't understand why. I mean, is that a prerequisite to be conservative now, is to have a victim complex? I do not understand. The same day as the Post, Lucasfilm and UTA, Carano's agency at the time, dropped her. Oh, UTA, however, is not named as a defendant in the suit. I wonder why. And I honestly do wonder why. The case alleges that Disney is at fault for Carano's former agency dropping the actor. Oh, I see. So it's not that she's not mad at UTA, but she thinks that UTA was forced by Disney to... Oh my God. I'm sure she carries a gun. I'm sure she's afraid of her own shadow, even though she's a former MMA person. She's definitely scared of her own shadow. Carano's lawsuit, which includes several elaborate Star Wars references, says Disney and Lucasfilm made it clear that only one orthodoxy in thought, speech, or action was acceptable in their empire, and that those who dared to question or failed to fully comply would not be tolerated. No, sweetheart, if you're going to be intolerant of people, you don't get to preach about tolerance. Because you decided that you don't want to tolerate other people who aren't like you. So you don't get to accuse others of being intolerant. That's just not how it goes. The plaintiff points to previous social media posts from Star Wars actors Pedro Pascal and Mark Hamill, in which President Donald Trump and his supporters were compared to Adolf Hitler and Nazis as acts of discrimination on the part of Disney, turning a blind eye to male co-stars' political statements with no financial or professional repercussions. Okay, again, if you don't want to be called a Nazi, don't act like a freaking Nazi. It's really not that hard. You're going to be fascist, then expect people to call you out on that. It's not, you don't get to whine when your fascist behavior is called out. It's just not the way it happens. And again, Trump quotes Hitler. I just do not know how you can whine about Trump being compared to Hitler when, even though Hitler was much smarter than Trump, when he's literally quoting the man. He wants to be Hitler. Okay. Variety has reached out to representatives for Disney, Lucasfilm, and Carano for comment. All right. So, now, number 3. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. All right. In an escalation of a standoff over her firing from The Mandalorian, Gina Carano is suing Disney and Lucasfilm for discrimination and wrongful termination in a lawsuit that opens another front in the battlefield for influence over Hollywood that has drawn in corporate America. Carano, in a complaint filed Tuesday in California federal court, alleges she was fired for voicing right-wing opinions on social media and seeks a court order that would force Lucasfilm to recast her. Again, not a thing. You cannot force a company to hire you. And again, why would you want to work for a company that booted you for, being a horrible being, a horrible human being? Elon Musk making good on a promise to foot the legal bill for users who claim they have been discriminated against due to their activity on his platform is helping fund the suit through X. God, he's dumb. He actually thinks that like I said, there was that one tweet, and she did do transphobic tweets, so maybe that's where it's coming from. In a statement, X's head of business operations, Joe Benarock, I said it this time, said, as a sign of X-Corp's commitment to free speech, again, not a thing, we're proud to provide financial support for Gina Carano's lawsuit, empowering her to seek vindication of her free speech rights on X and the ability to work without bullying, harassment, or discrimination. Again, not the government. Free speech has nothing to do with us. Lucasfilm in 2021 announced that Carano would not be returning to the hit series after sharing a post in which she said, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. Now, if she stopped with that part, she would be 100% correct. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Nope, not the same. You're comparing ethnicity to someone's political views. Granted, political views tend to come down from your parents, but not always. So, yeah, there is that. Now, do the anti-Semites generally go after synagogues? Well, yeah, because they probably don't know the difference between a religious Jew and an ethnic one. But, does it really matter? It was the latest in a long string of posts in which the former MMA fighter drew the ire of social media users for positions seen as right-wing on hot-button issues. Oh, good, maybe we'll get more of that instead of that one sentence. Carano, who was dropped by UTA following the controversy, previously mocked government mandates to wear masks during the COVID-19 pandemic and falsely suggested that voter fraud occurred during the 2020 presidential election. Oh, why am I not surprised? In a statement clarifying the post on X, Carano said on Tuesday, my words were consistently twisted to demonize and to humanize me as an alt-right-wing extremist. Maybe because you sound like it? I mean, it's amazing how when people say that, things like that, they don't, give examples of, this is what I actually meant, and this is what's the full context of what I said. No, they never do that. Because they know that if they did, they would just be shown to be the horrible people that they're trying to claim they aren't. According to the complaint, Disney and Lucasfilm harassed and defamed Carano for refusing to conform with their viewpoints on issues relating to Black Lives Matter. Again, if you don't want to be a supporter of Black Lives Matter, fine. Just don't denigrate blacks. It's really that simple. Preferred pronouns, well, yeah, you kind of walked into that one. And disproven claims of election interference. Okay. Now, again, you do not have to support Black Lives Matter. Just don't look down, don't defame black people, don't hate on black people. Again, preferred pronouns. Pedro Pascal had to explain the point of preferred pronouns to you. So you didn't even know until Pedro Pascal explained it. So, again, Pedro Pascal has a trans sister. So, I would consider that a hostile work environment for Pedro. I mean, he certainly couldn't bring his sister to the set, now could he? Because Gina is a hateful bigot. And disproven claims of election interference. Well, if you're not going to trust facts, now, is that worth firing over, though? Probably not, but considering the insurrection, While she was allegedly fired for her cultural and religious beliefs, Carano argues that the entertainment giant turned a blind eye to her male co-stars who allegedly made offensive and denigrating posts directed towards Republicans. She points to Pedro Pascal's 2017 post comparing former President Donald Trump to Hitler. Again, being Republican is not the same as being a sexual or gender minority, or any type of minority. So, because you can change your views. You can change your political views. You don't necessarily change your sexual orientation or your gender identity. You might learn more about yourself and maybe realize that you thought you were one sexual orientation, you're really another. That is a thing. But that is stuff that happens inwardly. It's not something where you read a fact and realize that you're not really a Republican anymore, you're a Democrat, or vice versa. Not the same thing. You are not born a Republican. You are not born a Democrat. You are born a gender or sexual minority, and definitely a racial minority. That's just the way it works. All right, and I explained again, if you don't like that Trump is being compared to Hitler, then maybe he shouldn't be quoting Hitler. Or the Ku Klux Klan, for that matter. The suit says Disney required Carano, who was paid $25,000 per episode as a guest actor, and later negotiated a one-time $5,000 bonus to meet with representatives of the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Discrimination and demanded a public apology. Now, I don't feel comfortable with the demands of an apology because, yeah, anybody can apologize. But is it a legit apology? I'd want someone to apologize because they legit realize that they were wrong, not to save their own ass. Defendants went so far as to try and convince Carano's publicist to force Carano to issue a statement admitting to mocking or insulting an entire group of people, which Carano had never done, the complaint states. Oh, really? You know, the internet stays forever. We can find your Instagram. We can get your tweets. I'm sure that somebody still has screenshots of them. That isn't a problem. So, do you want to try again? After she refused, Carano was told to meet with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy and 45 employees who identify as LGBTQ, according to the suit. She declined and was terminated shortly after from The Mandalorian, as well as other titles in the Star Wars universe, including Rangers of the New Republic. Well, of course she was. That was supposed to be her show. And if there's no Cara Dune, anyway, you know, all I'm seeing is that Lucasfilm tried really, really hard to get her to at least give the optics that she was attempting to be a good person. So, give the optics that she's being a good person, or maybe learn that the shit she said wasn't true and that she would retract it. But no, she doubled down and somehow thought that showing that she's a horrible person would, I don't know, not get her fired? I'm not sure what she thought she was going to accomplish. Carano also alleges Disney engaged in a post-termination smear campaign, citing the abrupt removal of an episode of Running Wild with Bear Grylls, in which she appeared from the show's scheduled lineup in an effort to malign her. Though the episode eventually aired, Disney allegedly omitted any mention of her name and likeness in promotional materials, which, again, is their right. It's their company, they can do that. I mean, you can question whether they're being dicks, but again, it's their company. They can choose how they run it. I mean, you do not fall under the discrimination laws, because political beliefs is not part of discrimination laws. The suit faults Disney's termination of Carano as the impetus for UTA and her transactional lawyer dropping her as a client. You know, that might have been gotten the ball rolling. You know, possibly that UTA and her transactional lawyer were thinking of getting rid of her, and Disney's firing of her gave them cover to do so themselves. But I would not say that they only did it because of Disney. It's possible that they just Disney firing her just gave them the courage to do the same. Carano brings claims of wrongdoing for wrongful discharge and sex discrimination. She seeks a court order that would force Lucasfilm to recast her and at least $75,000 plus punitive damages. Again, I don't think that's a thing. And again, why would you want to work for a company that treated you like that? Because I can assure you, Pedro Pascal probably does not want to be in the same room with you. Again, even though he claims that they're friends, I question that. I mean, I would not want to be friends with someone who I would be afraid to bring a family member near because they're part of the group that she's maligning. Now, I'm not trans, but I am part of the LGBTQ plus community. I sure as hell wouldn't want to be around someone who spouts all this horribleness towards a part of my community just because I'm not part of that part of it. Because, you know, there's this thing called empathy, which today's Republicans have zilch of, apparently. Or at least the Trumpists don't. Some of us have been unjustly singled out, harassed, persecuted, and had our livelihood stripped away because we dared to encourage conversation, ask questions, and refused to go along with the mob, she said in a statement. Is that what you were doing? Comparing Republicans to Jews in the Holocaust is striking up a conversation, encouraging conversation. No. No, it's not. And refuse to go along with the mob. You mean like the mob that attacked the Capitol? Are you talking about that mob? At-will employees who make up the majority of private sector workers often face an uphill climb in obtaining damages for terminations over problematic online posts deemed to be offensive and in violation of workplace policies. Unlike employees in the public sector, such workers are not shielded against discipline under the First Amendment. And again, free speech doesn't qualify here because you're not a public sector employee, the First Amendment doesn't apply to you. Private sector can do what they want, especially if you're an at-will employee. That means that it's a right to work state. So the company has all the power. On X funding the suit, Carano added, I am honored that my case has been chosen to be supported by the company that has been one of the last glimmers of hope for free speech in the world. Really? Elon Musk, the guy who decided that cis is a slur and will be removed if anybody uses the word, even though it's a scientific prefix, and, it's just because a bunch of butthurt, cis people don't want to be called cis because they're normal, as if having a prefix somehow means you're not normal. I actually legit had a person once tell me that normal parts of the normal attributes, like, eye color or whatever, don't actually have genes, that the only genes are those for abnormal things, like sexual orientation. There is no straight gene, but there is a gay gene. So yeah, this is the intelligence we're dealing with. And again, Elon Musk is one of them. He's for free speech until he isn't. If you say anything bad about him, your posts disappear. If you say anything that gets people who he agrees with upset, he doesn't like that, and he will block you, and he will ban you. But yeah, he is totally for absolute free speech. Because, again, not a thing on X, because it's his company. He can do what he wants. He's not the government, which is who free speech is supposed to protect you from. Last year, Musk pledged to fund legal action for users on X who claim they have faced discrimination by their employers who over their activity on the platform. The offer came with no limit on costs, with Musk saying he would go after the boards of directors of the companies too. Well, I've got to admit, unlike Trump, he at least is putting his money where his mouth is, so I guess he's got that going for him. Guess he doesn't want to be rich anymore. Amid a hardening position on issues such as gender politics and race in the Republican Party, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis made holding holding woke corporations accountable, one of the main pillars of his failed presidential campaign. That, and he has all the personality of a cardboard box. Last year, he assumed control of the special tax district that controls development around Disney World, in a move intended to retaliate against the company for voicing opposition to a law that limits classroom discussion on sexuality and gender. Which, the only reason Disney did that was because LGBTQ plus employees walked out. That was the only reason they did it. Alright, so that is the last article from the Hollywood Reporter from this one. So yeah. If anything comes of this lawsuit, I will definitely make another video. But that's where we are at right now. Again, I don't see this lawsuit going anywhere because it's commonplace that a public company, like, even though it's a privately run company, it's got a very public face. It's only natural that they will do damage control when one of their employees decides to do something horribly stupid, like shit on a group of people for absolutely no reason. So yeah, it's just a bummer that all three articles, they mention her being anti-trans, but there's no examples of it. And the only one I remember is the pronoun thing, which he then claimed that Pedro Pascal explained to her. So I don't know what ended up happening with that. I do know that there were other anti-trans posts. Samantha Lux did a video showing her anti-trans posts. So it's a bummer that they didn't show that they concentrated on the Jews and Nazi Germany thing, which is horrible. But it sucks that they didn't give more examples of her horribleness. Not just said that she questioned the 2020 election and mocked mask mandates, but that they didn't give examples. Actually show her tweets. But maybe that'll come up in the trial, because if there's a lawsuit, there's going to be a trial, unless the judge laughs it out. But we'll see what happens. So, with that, after that very, very long video, I will see you guys in the next one.